Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Broken Brand. I'm your host, Stuart. And today, we're going to be looking at a documentary, Oppenheimer: The Real Story. This documentary was released sometime last year. I tried to look up the exact date it was released and how it was released. Couldn't really find a when or where, but that's beside the point. This documentary kind of focuses on the life of Oppenheimer, more so pre Los Alamos and post Los Alamos. We have the Oppenheimer movie by Christopher Nolan, and that was an incredible movie. I highly recommend it. And I was just scrolling through Hoopla this evening. And I was like, oh, cool. Let's check it out. And so, as I'm watching it, I realized the main interviewee of this documentary is Kai Bird, the author of the book American Prometheus, who Christopher Nolan also based his movie off of. So, what is this documentary? Is it good? It's absolutely incredible. And here's why. It gives more insight into the actual person, history, and ending to J. Robert Oppenheimer in his life, based on other historians, other physicists, and Kai Bird. And it does start showing out like he really did live an absolute life of privilege on the Upper West Side of New York. Uh, he had he had a personal driver through most of his life growing up. Whatever he wanted, his parents got him. He went to elite schooling, and he was just not only was he very intelligent, but he was very privileged and very blessed. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a statement of fact to kind of understand who he is. And the big thing that he always fought against is he wasn't German and he wasn't Jewish. Despite being both, he was an American. And so it starts to focus on his pre life through his education and things like that as he's growing up and gives you a nice picture of how Oppenheimer became Oppenheimer. And it does go into definite discussion of Los Alamos and the creation of the atomic bomb and some of the stuff that that Nolan's movie doesn't touch on how he came to some of his conclusions on why he agreed that the use of the atomic bomb was necessary despite the loss of life. Also, the bigger part of this is it starts to show how he lived out the rest of his life after this. There was a lot of turmoil. There was you had the McCarthy era of communist investigations going into it, and it was just saddening and how he continued to defend himself in front of Congress and in front of so many other people in interviews and things like that. And it starts to paint a better picture of who he was outside Nolan's movie. It gives you more insight into the man himself. It gives more context, I should say. And as I was watching the documentary and they're describing his childhood and how he acted with friends and how he got along with people and even to his adult life and his life, I was immediately reminded of Sheldon Cooper off the Big Bang Theory, minus the charisma. I mean, his eccentricities, his very, very set in his ways, very literal on everything, despite being an enormous polymath and just an expert on so many topics that that's just who he was. Learned he was a polymath. He was a polymath, polygot. He knew languages. He knew subjects. He was a brilliant man, and he was one of those people that even though despite being accused of being a communist, he was just one of those people that he would his personality would never allow him to be entered into a group where someone had to dictate what he did and how he believed. He would have never joined a political party. He may have been like ideas and concepts from different political groups, It touches on how he liked things like how he liked communism, but also respected Truman and it respected Churchill and other world leaders, other political figures around the world, how he dove into different religions from around the world and studied them. He you get to see a lot of this in this documentary on how he does this. But being the charismatic person that he he was loved by everyone that knew him, even till the end of his life. In the end of his life, he opted for what we call the opposite of his upbringing, not from the lavish and well connected life in the Upper West Side of New York. He continued to seek out solitary uh, existence in among the Caribbean islands, among small huts along the Rio Grande. He he was a very he became very private because he knew he couldn't achieve some of the goals he wanted to because of the stigma that was put onto him by various political figures, let's say. So I found this documentary extremely interesting, and when I was looking to see when it was released, I found that I did waste one of my borrows for this month on Hoopla because the documentary is free on YouTube right now. Just search Oppenheimer the Real Story. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube for free. And I suggest everyone out there just just take a seat on your couch, turn it on, and watch an intriguing 90-minute dive into the psyche and the person that is J. Robert Oppenheimer, and truly find yourself in a world where you understand him a little better outside of what you know now. But with better understanding, you also get to see this internal struggle that he had and makes him appear more human and more real than just some character in a movie that you saw last summer. So I will say this: 100% love this documentary. It's not as dramatic and fun and exciting as Christopher Nolan's movie, but this is a good documentary that kind of dissects his personality and his intellect on how someone like him became who he became. So, with that, I love you all, and there's nothing you can do about it. Till next time.